Right, here's the latest JZR model that we're just getting ready to go out the door. This is the largest version of the JZR range that we do. This is actually the first one of this size we've made, and it's got a 4x4 cutting area. Like all the other JZR machines, it's a fully welded steel frame with a mixture of 4 and 5mm thick walled tubes. This particular machine is the freestanding version. As you can see, we offer it in desktop or freestanding versions. The freestanding version is just as you see now. You've got a lower frame, you can put the PC and anything else you want on the shelf. The desktop version is basically from there upwards. The frame's got adjustable feet on the bottom. The adjustable feet come out and go in this tube when it's benchtop mounted, so you've got adjustability when it's a benchtop, on the benchtop. Right, we've got 20mm profile linear rails on all axes. We've got 16mm diameter ball screws on all axes. On the X and the Y, they've got 10mm pitch, and on the Z they have 5mm pitch. The Y-axis has got twin ball screws, one on each side with twin motors. The profile linear rail on the Y-axis is mounted on heavy duty aluminium profile. There's a number of reasons for this. It helps with vibrations and resonance. It makes it easier for us to mount the rails onto it, but we also, on this lower tube, as you can see, we cut a slot in it, and the reason we cut the slot in is so we can put the ball screw inside it, and it makes it very, very neat. It protects the ball screw so it's not getting damaged. If it was on the outside, it can be banged and knocked. It doesn't get covered in debris because it's inside. Makes it very, very neat. As you can see down the side, there's nothing stuck out the side. So it's got a few positives, but one of the things when we cut this slot in is we do slightly weaken this tube, so putting this on the top stiffens it all back up and makes it very strong. The gantry again uses heavy duty aluminium extrusion with the rails bolted to it, and it's arranged in an L-shaped construction. I've used this design for a lot of years. It's a design of my own that came up with years ago. The extrusion is bolted together along its length. It's also fastened in, the ends are fastened into these 10mm steel plates with some big hefty M12 bolts. As you can see, the L shape. It's very, very stiff. Say it's well proven design. I've had it on hundreds of machines now. It's also mounted onto these base plates. So we've got two 15mm ground cast tooling plate. One of them mounts to the linear bearings and the other plate bolts into the lower plate. And the reason we do it that way is we can make it so the whole gantry lifts off as one piece. This machine was designed with tight spaces in mind and poor accessibility. So if we need to get it into tight spaces, it can all lift off as one unit. A good example of it was a couple of months ago. We delivered not this size machine, but that size machine over there into a loft, up 3 flights of stairs into a small loft in a townhouse near Manchester. Very tight access, and you just would not have got a machine like this in otherwise. The guy, before this machine, he had a Workbee Shapoco type machine that bolted together because that's the only thing he could get in the loft, and it just wasn't strong enough for him for what he was doing. So and it didn't meet what he needed to do. So without this setup, you'd never get a machine of this strength in there. It was an handful getting in, I must admit. It's not something I want to do every week, but we did it, we got it in, and he's well chuffed with the machine. Right, one of the advantages of the L shape is we can mount the ball screw for the X-axis at the rear keeps it out the firing line of chips. If it was on the front, all the debris and everything, chips will stick to it, hit it. So that's a good reason. Put it at the rear. We also, on the X-axis ball screw, we've got twin BK fixed bearings at each end to help stiffen it up so we don't get any whip. I'll move on to the Z-axis next. Right, the Z-axis is a new design I came up with just for this JZR range, and it's one of the stiffest Z-axes I've ever made, if not the stiffest. It's made completely out of ground cast tooling plate. Front plate's 20mm thick, and the linear rails bolt to the back side of it, so when it's extended it's very, very stiff. It's probably one of the stiffest ways to do it. Also, the sides are 10mm thick ground cast tooling plate again, and we pocket into them to reduce a little bit of weight. Helps with acceleration and things. But it's all bolted together, so there's a back plate, plates in the middle, there's plates there, all bolted. It's very, very stiff. It's also got a cover over the top, so no, again, stopping chips and debris getting in. You get a little bit in, you can't not, but it's a fraction of what it would have been if it was open. The motor's inside it, the limit switch is inside it, so it's all protected. You can see down the side. Right. Electrically, all the electronics are housed in this steel enclosure, IP65 steel enclosure with a interlocked door safety switch, so when you open the door you can't turn the machine on, you can't power it up. We've got twin fans in the top, cooling fans, one pulling air in, one pulling air out. It's a positively charged system, so it blows the air in, pulls the air out. We also mount the VFD, which controls the spindle. We mount that externally. The reason for that is to keep the heat out of this box. We don't want any more heat in there than we need. Doesn't need to be in there. We don't need access to the front of this. It's fully controlled from the control software. Speed, turning it on and off is controlled in the software. It's just there to keep the heat out. We've also got a few LEDs and a reset button, which is part of the e-stop system, which I'll explain in another video. All the cables run through this energy chunky cable chain. It's a large cable chain, so we're not cramped, we're not got cables squashed together like you find on a lot of machines. They're not rubbing and getting crushed. We've also got plenty of room if you ever want to add anything extra to a later date. The motors on the machine are NEMA 23 4.5 Nm closed loop system. Very, very powerful, very, very accurate. We've got 4 motors on it. We've got twin motors on the Y-axis, so there's one in there, one in that tube over there. This is the X-axis motor, and we've got a Z-axis motor in there. The X and the Z are connected to the ball screws with a timing belt, which is under this cover. The reason we do that is it helps with resonance, it lowers resonance, which affects the motor. It also makes it so we can position the motors in such a way that they're behind the machine, they're not stuck off the side, sticking out. Again, thinking about accessibility and limited space, that's the point of this machine, is so it can go into limited space, or one of the points. So that's why we do that. Same in the Z-axis. The reason for doing it that way inside the Z-axis is to keep the height of the Z-axis down, because if we had to put the motor on the top of the ball screw, it will be stuck up the top there, where if we can invert the motor so it goes down and points downwards, which it does, it's about there, in line there, then it keeps the overall height shorter, which helps when it's going in lofts and sheds, little sheds and things like that. Right, go around the front. It's got a full e-stop system, which I'm going to explain all that in another video, but you've got the e-stop on the front. As standard, the machine comes with a plywood base, and we put on an MDF spoil board. Not this what you're looking at there, this is an optional extra, but we will just put an MDF spoil board as standard. We do have options. This is the option, one of the options, and it's a one of the most versatile systems I know of. And it's a clamping system, so we've got threaded inserts for clamping, we've got pegs, so you can have pegs, and they're all at a centre distance, so they match. And it's a T-track system, so you can put a T-track clamp in. This is an optional upgrade. It's very, very flexible system, very versatile. The other options we have is the control software that we run the machine with is UCNC. This is the software. We provide the machine with a refurbished desktop PC. We also offer a laptop as an upgrade, which is what we're looking at now. This is the laptop. We also have a pendant, which we offer, a wireless pendant, which you can control. 95% of the machine functions which UCNC has can be done from this, through these various buttons and function keys. You can jog the machine around and everything with this. Again, I'm going to do another video, it'll be in the video. We also have a wireless tool light setter. Now, when we provide the machine, it comes as standard with a wired touch pad, which you use for setting the tool light. But this is a wireless version of that. It's very handy if you want to use a semi-automatic tool chain system where you will touch the tool off and then put this to a fixed location, say there, and then when you change tools, you just change the tool, the machine will run off to this, go down, touch this, measure the new tool, and carry on and cut the job. So that's another upgrade. The other thing we offer is a dust stud. We don't provide the machine with a dust stud as standard because we used to provide these as standard, but we found people just didn't use them. A lot of hobby users are a bit frightened of not seeing the tool, and when this is on you can't see the tool, so it sort of frightens them, so they don't use it. So it was a waste of money basically, so we decided to stop providing it, knock a little bit off the price of the machine, and then offer it as an extra. The other reason as well is there's so many different hose sizes. This is 100mm, but vacuum cleaners, people have different ones, different hose sizes. It were a nightmare keeping all the sizes, so that's an option. And that's about it. We've got the other option is the water tank. The standard, we provide the water cooling system for the spindle. It's a bucket with a water pump in it. The hoses connect in there. Now for 90% of hobby users, people like that, this is more than good enough. People that are running for 5 and 6 hours a day, it's fine. But we have users that want something a little bit better because they're cutting 12, 15, 20. I've even had a customer cut a 72-hour job. This is an aluminium water tank. It's got a radiator and twin fans to cool it. It's just offers you that little bit more cooling for you, for a bit more heavy duty on your cooling needs. The spindle is a 2.2 kilowatt water cool spindle, if I didn't mention it before, with an ER20 collet system. We do provide it with a full set of collets as well. So there you go, that's it, thank you.